And now on Who's Views, a Doctor Who fan joins JT for a little chit-chat.
It's chit chat time again here on Who's Views. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. And as you can see on this edition of Chit Chat, I am joined by the one and only Dan. Yay! Hello, sir.
Hi.
How are you?
I am good, thank you.
Yeah, and I have to say, I love his t-shirt.
There we go.
Look at that.
There we go.
Yeah, well loved and well worn.
Diamond logo, it's the best.
It is, isn't it? It's now an iconic classic, wouldn't you say, Dan?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I am delighted to welcome you. Thank you so much for getting in touch and saying, oh, I quite fancy having a chit chat. So let's get started. And I'm going to start with my usual first question here. How did you find the Doctor?
Well, I've been thinking about this because I suspected this might be a question. And I think there's two answers to this, because I think one of them is how did I find the Doctor, and the other one is when did I become a fan?
Okay.
In my case, so my earliest memory of the Doctor, I think, because I was born in 1977, same year as Star Wars, yes. And so when I was about 3, me and my parents we were waiting to get housed in a council house, and we were living in a mobile home park.
Oh yeah,
which had like an outside coal bunker, I remember.
Did it?
And,
oh, God,
yeah,
back.
Yeah, a while ago, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah. God.
And I remember being under a stool at the tender age of 3, and I think I must have watched something to do with that repeat season that they had in 1980.
Oh, the Five Faces.
Yeah, because I can remember Agador, I can remember Scaroth, and I can remember Tom Baker falling from the top of the radio telescope.
Oh.
And I can remember a kind of a weird white guy that I thought was covered in flour. I was like, wait, why is he covered in flour, Mummy? And I think I can remember, and I don't know if the Carnival of Monsters was part of it, but I think I remember Drashigs as well.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I remembered. Yeah.
And so that was, I didn't know what that was. I just thought those things were cool at the age of 3, and I'm glad I can still remember them.
Yeah.
And then I can remember, as we progressed through the 80s, I can definitely remember bits of Peter Davison's Doctor. Gosh. I can remember A Man with Baked Beans on His Face, which was Resurrection of the Daleks.
Oh,
you get that plague at the beginning. I called it Baked Beans Face. And I don't think I was allowed to watch it, because I can remember coming down the stairs and seeing that and being quite disturbed about that.
Right.
And I remember the Malice. That was quite scary. But then, unfortunately, JT, I lost contact with the Doctor.
Oh,
because, yeah, I got terribly into the A-Team, I'm afraid to say.
Oh.
Yeah, the A-Team. You're talking 85, 86. And so I missed out on Colin Baker entirely. I have no memories of Colin Baker. Because I was into people shooting at each other and then getting up at the end completely unharmed. And stuff like that. Yeah, I was heavily into the A-Team for a long time, and I had the toys.
Did you?
Yeah, I had all that. Believe it or not, there were 18 toys at one point.
It was, yeah. I do. Yeah. I was a bit too old for those, but I do remember seeing them in the Argos catalogues and stuff like that.
I remember
one of an A-Team van, wasn't there? There was a van.
Oh, best Christmas ever! I got the van.
Did you get the van as well?
Yeah, I got the van. Yeah. And they were obviously the figures that went in the van were obviously repurposed from something else, because they didn't have the costumes of the A-Team. They had like they were like robots. They had like, so one of them was blue and one of them was orange, and they just had the little A-Team heads on top.
To go. They got away with murder in the 80s, didn't they?
They did. Well, we were happy with it, you know.
Have you still got them?
No, I don't know where they went.
Oh, what a shame.
I would give anything to get that A-Team van back. But yeah, and then I have no idea why I started watching Doctor Who. I think I was just there, and I think my parents might have been watching Coronation Street up in their bedroom, and I turned it on, and I can remember watching Dragonfire where Kane's face melted.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right, and I just thought that's fantastic. And from that point onwards, I then discovered the Target novelizations in the library, in the local library, Watford Library, and then I discovered this massive world that there was more to it.
Yeah.
And every week they had different Target novelizations, and I just ate them up.
Oh,
because they were so good.
yeah.
And suddenly, and that is the point where I became a fan.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And you've stayed a fan ever since.
And
they're lovely memories, Dan. Lovely memories.
Yeah, yeah. But I think a lot of people came through it through the novelizations. Actually.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. There must be people that are similar to yourself because, well, for those people who are watching outside the UK that won't know, Doctor Who was on a Saturday, as you're suggesting it, but so was the ITV regions showed the A-Team. A lot of them showed the A-Team against the Doctor.
Yeah.
So it was very much, although Doctor Who held its own, it was still doing well. It was still getting 7 to 8 million in the ratings, but I think the A-Team might have been on a par, if not a little bit more.
Yeah, I think they were definite competitors.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But then unfortunately Coronation Street was the behemoth that it couldn't tackle.
I know. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And they did it on purpose, the bastards.
They did. The BBC put it against Corrie on well, we know all about that now, don't we?
Yeah.
When you rediscovered the Doctor, when you were little, because you're still little when Dragonfire is coming out.
Yeah, 10 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you're finding. I love the fact that you found the Target books in the library, like many of us did. You know, because that was great. So that's what made you a fan. Then did you start really looking into the fan world?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the ideal time to be a Doctor Who fan, is about the age of 10 if you're a boy, because you want to absorb everything about a particular thing. And some people will have things like cars and they learn everything about cars, and some people will have Star Wars, and some people have this and that, and you just want to know everything about it. And you go out, and it was, you know, I had the magazine, I had the 25th anniversary special, I think was the first thing that I bought, which had a sort of glossy red cover and yeah. And there were things in there that I just read them and they were like lore. So I would just read it and I would just absorb it. And I didn't know who Barry Letts was and all people like that. And I would just absorb it. I didn't know it. It just went in, you know.
Oh, fabulous.
And then with the Target novelizations, I think one of the great things about them is that they often, or not all of them, but they often expanded beyond the TV program, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
And just stuff like, I think the cover for the Armageddon Factor had a picture of the Doctor crying on it.
Yeah.
Right? Why? It's not in the story, is it?
Not in the story. So I've never wondered that. It's not one of my favorite covers, I'm afraid. Yeah.
No, but it was just one of those things I was like, oh, I was intrigued by that. You know, it drew you in. You know, and of course your imagination can fill in all the gaps, especially when you watch the story later on and you go, oh, that effect was a bit not what I was expecting it to be, because you've read Terrence Dicks expanding on it, you know, and making it better. But yeah, and then so I voraciously found out all I could about Doctor Who. I had the magazine ordered at Smith's. Oh. For me every whenever it was month, was it? You went
every month on a Thursday. Yeah.
You went in and had a look in your little folder at the time. I remember.
I was going to ask you, was one of these file things with the little cardboard folders with your name on. I remember those at WH Smith as well. Yeah. Yeah.
So you couldn't help looking at other people's as well. You know, copies of Readers' Wives and Anorak Monthly and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. No, that was a precious time, because I just look forward to getting that every month. It's fantastic.
So did you start at this point? Did you start collecting other things apart from the monthly magazine?
What did I have? Well, there wasn't much to get, I remember, because they've only really started merchandising it properly in recent years, haven't they? So I got the books, obviously. The VHSs.
Yes.
That was big. That was huge. Now, yes, here's a story.
Oh, go on.
I had read somewhere, and I think I'd seen some pictures of Terror of the Zygons.
Right.
in the magazine. And so I said to my mum and dad, I want Terror of the Zygons for my birthday on VHS. And bless them, they didn't get it for me.
Oh.
No. They said they looked at it and they thought it was a bit too scary. So they bought me Day of the Daleks.
Oh.
Now, as somebody brought up in the 80s and watching Star Wars and all that kind of thing, it took me a while to appreciate the quality of Day of the Daleks.
How many years?
Probably about another decade.
Yeah.
Now, and that I realize is entirely due to me, because I was looking at it and it just wasn't what I expected it would be. And it wasn't as fast as I would expect it to be. I'd probably read the novelization at that point. And it was just too different. It was just too 70s. You know, I couldn't get my head around it. And so I was very, very disappointed. Worst birthday ever. What can you do?
Oh, bless you. How old were you then? What birthday?
Oh, when did the VHSs come out?
Oh, they started in 83 for the first one, of course, and the budget's towards the end of the 80s.
Yeah.
So Day of the Daleks was one of the first few. So it would have been late 80s, I think.
Yeah, late 80s. So around about the same time as I was watching Sylvester McCoy and stuff.
Yeah, around about then.
Yeah. So, and when I was young, I was very wowed by special effects. You know, the stories were not the most important thing at that time. Right. And so things like the special effects of people disappearing and there's no beams coming out of the guns and all that. My shallow 10-year-old, 11-year-old self went, oh, this is crap.
Yeah.
This Terror of the Zygons would have been much better than this. And in the end, I did get Terror of the Zygons, and it is one of my favorites to this day. But I can very much appreciate the fantastic story that Day of the Daleks is now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But so the VHSs were a big thing, and I had a mate who got into Doctor Who with me at the time, and we collected the VHSs together and went round each other's houses to watch them, and had our little in-jokes about, you know, quoting the lines and all that sort of thing, you know, going into fits of hysterics about something or other. You know, you have your in-jokes, don't you?
Oh, God,
yeah, fun times.
Yeah. I love that, though. I mean, when it comes to Day of the Daleks, I was exactly the same, and I'm a few years older than you. And I remember getting Day of the Daleks and being terribly upset about it, because this isn't like the book.
Yes.
What's this about? And I understood the premise of the story, but I just couldn't get the Dalek voices were a bit yicky.
Yeah,
the look of it was a bit yicky. So it's taken me about 30 years to appreciate it, to be quite honest.
Yeah. And a lot of the Pertwee tropes feel very dated, don't they? Like the civil servants in bowler hats and stuff that you look at and you go, that's a different world to the one I live in. I'm
not so sure. The bureaucrats are still there, aren't they?
Oh, they're still here. They just don't wear hats. Yeah.
They just don't wear bowler hats anymore. I don't appreciate that when you're walking around London. There's not hardly anybody with bowler hats. I think, come on, where's the Britishness gone? Come on.
Yes, come on. At least then you could identify them and pelt them with eggs, couldn't you?
Whereas now you don't need that. You just pelt everybody with eggs down in London.
just everybody, just to make sure.
Anything goes now,
yeah. Yeah.
So did you end up collecting all the VHS?
Well, yeah, pretty much every single one that I could. I think towards the end, I don't think I got them because it sort of tapered off a bit. Yeah, I was definitely less enthusiastic about Hartnell episodes because once again, didn't appreciate the quality at my tender age. And then I obviously replaced them all with the DVDs when they came out. And I said goodbye to the day I said goodbye to my VHSs is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
I kept all the covers.
Did you? That's a good idea. The covers were beautiful, weren't they?
I just thought to myself, what is this thing? Right? It's a plastic thing with some tape inside and a plastic cover, but the important thing that makes it a cherished object is the paintings and the images and stuff. So I kept those, and then it didn't feel so bad. Yeah. But lack of space.
That's the thing as you grow up, isn't it? And you get houses and stuff like that. So as a Doctor Who fan, though, I have to tell you, I don't know if you've been the same, but as a Doctor Who fan, when I've looked at houses and stuff, I've always thought, right, where will the collection go? Before most other things. Isn't that terrible?
You have to think about that.
Yeah. It looks like you've got a nice little room there for yourself, though.
This is the man cave. I finally got a man cave after all these years.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Who did you boot out?
All my bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what were we talking about?
Anything you like.
Yeah. Well, Whose Views has been quite useful because I had been contemplating replacing the DVDs with the Blu-rays to make more space, but
really?
the consensus is maybe not.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe
it's
not.
a shame, isn't it? Isn't it a shame? Only recently, as well, as they're coming towards the end of the collection box set. I mean, it's just shame, isn't it?
Yeah, I just don't want any AI on it.
No, neither do I. No,
I want as clean a nice version as we had on the DVDs, and slightly better if they can do it, but without compromising the sort of the archival material.
Yeah.
You know, I want that, and I would quite happily get rid of the DVDs, and it would free up an awful lot of shelf space. But I just don't think, and I don't think they should be doing it. I think there's a moral issue there. You know, you can't be presenting these things as what went out. You know, and what we want to see is what went out in the best version.
Yeah.
So the plan is, what I'm probably going to do is get the Blu-rays and put the DVDs into storage, but keep them because I don't like the idea of getting rid of them.
No. I mean, I mean, you've been part of the discussion on our channel when we had that chat. Remember that on one of the shows, and you were part of that discussion. And I'm shocked by that because I know that some of our fellow fans had started to get rid of the DVDs season by season and transferring it. And now, and I get fans saying this to me and through emails and stuff like that. I wish I hadn't have done that now. So now they're going back because they're quite cheap to buy, and they're rebuying them on DVD as well as the Blu-ray. And I just, I mean, it's really naughty of the BBC studios to implement this, isn't it? It's nothing to do. We have to stress it's nothing to do with the restoration team. It's nothing to do with the guys.
No.
It is to do with BBC Studios policy. I just don't understand it at all.
Well, isn't it all related to the thing that you were talking about recently with things like the edited war games and all that, where what they're trying to do is put their own little stamp on it.
What do you think about that, though? Because that's a theory we have to shoehorn in, oh, look, it's our show type. I mean, we're probably talking very out of context, but it's very, very strange, isn't it? That suddenly you get all this stuff coming through. And I don't know, what's your take on it?
Well, the whole idea of cutting the war games down and changing the effects and changing the music is just insulting to everybody, really, isn't it? It's insulting to the old fans, because it's saying the thing you liked actually is a bit crap and we're going to have to change it. And then it's saying to new fans, we don't think you've got the intelligence or the attention span to appreciate the original.
Exactly. Or follow a story over so many 25-minute episodes each, which is enough time to watch as many as you want and have a break, isn't it, mate?
Yeah. And the War Games is an absolute cracking story. I've never watched the War Games and gone, oh, I'm a bit bored with this. Never happened.
No.
Never happened.
Yeah.
Something, even if it's just people running around, it's done so entertainingly that it's, you know, it keeps you watching. And then and then politically, if you think about it, yes, if you're gonna not give them the benefit of the doubt, and I don't think they deserve the benefit of the doubt anymore, you'd say what they're trying to do is sort of rewrite it. And, you know, if you start thinking in sort of sinister and kind of pessimistic ways, you think to yourself, right, well, what they'll do is they'll create a new version of all these stories and then go, these are the one, this is what it should be. And then, and I hate to say it, and I hate to put it out there, and it's probably not going to happen, and I wouldn't have said it would ever have happened up until very recently, but I can see people erasing tapes again.
Really? Why?
Well, because it's politically incorrect.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean the massive big censorship issue? Yeah. In case something offends somebody.
That's what I was afraid of about 5 years ago. You know, when we were doing COVID, and suddenly it was all those protests and all that, all those issues.
Yes.
And people were saying, right, well, Fawlty Towers, that's got to go. And you can't watch Gone with the Wind and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you start to conceptualize. You think to yourself, this is how it's happened in dictatorial regimes and kind of puritanical societies. Our society during the Civil War, people have gone, oh, that's bad, burn it, erase it, etc. Right? That's the ethic behind it. That's the sort of the thinking behind it. And they haven't gone that far yet, and they may not go that far. And then, we may sort ourselves out. But it's a little thought in the corner of my mind sometimes that we need to keep physical copies of these things.
Oh, totally.
In case they withdraw them from us.
Yeah. And Doctor Who's the case in point. We're talking about keeping the DVDs because of the AI intrusion. We've said it on the show lots of times. Keep any physical, whether it be a vinyl or it be a DVD or a video, keep that. And don't rely on the downloaded version, because they can take that away from you at any time. It's similar with it. I do know what you were talking about back in 2020, because I have to tell you, I spent because of your illustrations, I spent a small fortune buying as much comedy on DVD as I possibly could, because I thought they're going to get rid of all this. They're not going to it's all going to be withdrawn. And I bought all the Faulty Towers. I bought Gimme. I bought Ab Fab. I'm Being Served. Oh, loads of stuff I've suddenly got now. Because I was like you. I was thinking they're gonna not let us have this at some point,
or they're going to edit it and bowdlerize it and censor
like they do on the telly.
Yeah. It's bad enough that they put warnings on it, to be quite honest.
I've never really quite understood that, actually.
Well, I suppose you can think about it from one point of view. If you were going to show, I don't know, The Thing or Terminator or whatever, and it's on at a particular time, you might want to put a warning on saying this program contains violence. It's just that now we have to put a warning on this program may contain opinions that you don't like, that will trigger you. And we differ over that. Me and you, JT, we're like, well, we don't care. You can say what you like. We're not going to be offended. But then there's this cohort of people who somehow get offended at everything and have to have warnings on things.
And yet they're a minority, but they're just very, very loud.
Yeah.
And
that's also something that I realized, 5 years ago when all that was going on. I suddenly went, surely society will push back against this in some way. Surely the sort of conservative bastions of, the police, the army, the blah, 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 all these people who we've been told through media are all sort of stuffy blazer wearing conservatives would sort of pop up and go, oh, no, let's stop.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
They took a knee. They offered their posterior and let it be kicked. And at that point, I lost trust in all institutions. And then I thought to myself, right, well, it's up to us now. God, this is getting dark, isn't it, JT? Good Lord.
No, it's absolutely fine. It's fascinating, because I know what you, and a lot of us will know what you mean. And the fact is as well, do you not think that now, we're recording this in 2026. Through our shows, I've been pushing back against a lot of this stuff for many years now, as it came in and affected my community, my life. Are you starting to see a pushback now from people? Yeah,
I think there is a pushback. The worst thing in the world is to have noticed something and nobody else has noticed it. And to think that you're the only person that thinks the way that you do. And that's the way that you get demoralized. And that's the way they purposefully demoralize you. That is the purpose of propaganda, is to make you think it's just you're wrong. Everybody else is right. And you get demoralized and you don't do anything about it. And they sort of isolate you and they cut you off. And that's how they destroy you. And I think I was kind of shouting to the hills at everybody, and lost a few friends in the process, although whether they were friends or not remains to be seen. Thinking, why can't anyone else see the way this is going? And they're all sort of chirpily joining in and jumping off the cliff. But I think more and more people, like yourself and like other people on YouTube and stuff like that, are just bringing it to everyone's attention so loudly and so clearly that people know it now, and there is a resistance, as it were.
And it's good to see. It's just a shame, though, in a sense, that Doctor Who had to get involved in all this nonsense, because the Doctor Who fandom that I knew Dan, was just such a friendly place. Now it's divided, and not so much as it was. Really, we're not. It's not the fandom I knew. That's what I'm trying to say. Do you know what I mean?
And you always wonder, don't you, as well? You think to yourself, as these splits occur, and we sort of divide down the middle, you think to yourself, have you always thought this? Were you always thinking this and just not vocalizing it? You know, the opposition. Because people start coming out with stuff, and you just go, did you just learn this yesterday, or have you actually secretly thought it for 20 years? Yes. And it feels like a bit of a betrayal, doesn't it? You know, because you'll have people sort of going on documentaries and talking very chummily about old TV and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden tide turns, and suddenly, oh well, yeah, well of course that was racist, wasn't it? I was you know, that was very sexist, that one, wasn't it? You know, and it's just like people change with the wind, and there's no kind of stability, and you know, Doctor Who actors start sort of coming up with these opinions, and you think, how long have you had these opinions? Did you always? You should have said something if you'd have thought that the whole time. What
can you name the date exactly, dear actor, when you went insane?
That's right.
You know, when you saw the bandwagon, what time was it? And what made you jump on it? Yeah,
I mean, people have analysed this, haven't they? And it's all to do with people wanting to fit in with the crowd they're in, etc., etc., etc. Going along with people, you know, echo chambers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just, I remember that thing. Was it Doctor Who magazine that started tutting about Talons of Weng Chiang?
Oh, it bloody well was. Yeah, when you came to Time Team. I used to like that Time Team feature because it was nice. It was a group of actually mature fans. Do you remember? That would look at episodes and they would have a discussion about it, a proper adult discussion, and you would get points out of it. And it was very interesting read. And then because they just decided to fire them, and then BC hired a completely far left woke group of idiots, basically, and they were just so insulting.
Yeah. And it's not that you noticed. It's not that you say, because you can look at Talons in an academic way, and you could say, right, okay, there's white actors portraying Asian actors, but there's also quite a lot of Asian actors, in it playing the Tong and so on. And you can say, but I always look at it this way. I think, okay, so if you were casting Lee Sen Chang, which Chinese actor would you have gone for in Britain in 1976?
Yeah, exactly, because there were millions to actually choose from.
Which fantastically trained actor with a charismatic presence who could be a villain did you have to choose from?
Yeah.
And people forget that because they have an ahistorical memory. They think that all the ethnic groups have been here all along in massive numbers because they've been taught the wrong history.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that it wasn't that they were casting him as Lee Sen Chang because they were snubbing, because they thought a Chinese actor couldn't do it. The likelihood is that no Chinese actors were put up by their agents for it.
There weren't that many, let's face it. There weren't that many at all. I mean, in the 70s and into the 80s, it was only the 90s that people would start to come through as the kids grew up and they start saying, I want to act, I want to do that. But you're absolutely right. And it infuriates me what you're saying there. I could totally agree with it. The fact that these people who weren't there have no idea about the Britain that we grew up in, because it was totally different to the crap it is now.
And you're right, because it's like the first generation of immigrants to this country, who were the Windrush generation, they were brought over to do things like work in the factories and drive buses.
Yes.
Right. And they did that, and they were a fantastic kind of backbone of British society after the war. And then it's their children who then grew up in much more affluence than they had, who would then sort of start thinking, I want to be a writer, I want to be an actor, etc. And you see them coming through a little bit in the 80s, don't you, in Enlightenment and
very gently, as they've
very gently. And also the other thing,
and stuff.
And the other thing you have to remember also is that the Doctor Who directors, they all had their little repertory companies, didn't they? That they worked with from theatre, and so they would always cast, what's his face, I can't remember his name now. Chancellor Gough, that guy.
You've got me off
Horsfall.
that. Yeah.
Bernard Horsfall.
Oh, of course it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he turned up so many times because David Maloney knew he would put in a good performance.
And yet that's a tradition in a sense, Dan, that carries on today because, of course, if you look at the likes of He Who Should Not Be Named, he's got his own little favourite clique of echo chamber actors as well that he keeps churning out into various productions, hasn't he? Including Doctor Who. So it's something that still goes on.
Yeah, Russell Tovey and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, absolutely it does. Yeah, and it's not, should that be a thing? I suppose there's no way of avoiding it really in that kind of business.
No, I don't think there is.
I do have experience of show business because I worked in theatre for about 13 years as a
stage. Tell me more. Whereabouts were you?
I was itinerant.
Oh, right.
So I worked all over. I was freelance. So yeah, I did a lot. The irony was that I lived in London and I did work everywhere else except London.
I bet you did, yeah. You had to, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, going around touring for 3, 6, 9 months, etc.
Yeah.
So you are aware of that sort of thing, and so that's another factor, But of course they don't look at that. They just leap to racism.
Yeah.
The omni explanation. So if there would have been a nuanced thing of discussing that and also then saying and nowadays, yes, we would try and cast an Asian actor if we could, etc. But that's not what these people do because they're ideological and they're dogmatic, and all it matters is to parade their own virtue in front of everyone else.
Yeah,
I'm a good person. Look at me calling this out. This 50-year-old program. Aren't I brave and clever?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No.
And the answer to that, of course, is you're absolutely not. You are exactly what you're accusing everybody else of being. You're just highlighting your issues.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you go back and you look in Doctor Who magazines, it's not that it was all stuffed with conservative people. They were liberals that wrote things in Doctor Who magazine, and I would have said I was a liberal up until a few years ago.
Yeah.
We looked at things, but we looked at them in the round. We said yes, it wouldn't be done today, but blah blah blah. The mitigating factors, and we appreciated it.
Yes.
We didn't have this dogmatic frame of mind.
We had the ability and still have the ability to not judge the past by the present day standard. Thank God, because the present day standard, as far as I'm concerned, is bloody dire.
Well, as a 1990s liberal, I felt that in the 90s, just heading up to the millennium, we almost had it. We almost had this thing where we'd gone, right, discrimination against people is bad. We won't do that. Let's all not do that going forward. And there was a precious moment when we were all kind of united together in that. And then these people started coming and going, no, you need to discriminate again, but just against the other people.
I agree. I remember feeling that, honestly, what you've just said, when I was in business in London at the turn of the century. I remember walking down Fleet Street, and I remember thinking, this is good. Everything seems to be okay. There's no homophobia, nobody cares. Sexuality isn't an issue. Race doesn't seem to be an issue. And I was walking to Boots at the top of Fleet Street to get lunch. And I remember thinking this, Dan. And then suddenly another generation comes in who brings back all the segregation. And it's just for people like us that were there at the time, it's been a massive culture shock where they're alleging that we are far right and that we are hateful and all this nonsense. But it's actually them that's destroyed the societal structure that we were nearly at.
Yeah, because, and it's actually written in this academic stuff that they've absorbed. It's basically American academia that has spread out and become, about 5 years ago, coinciding with COVID. Somehow this stuff got into the mainstream like a poison.
I agree.
And they actually say in this stuff, the remedy to past discrimination is current and future discrimination. Ooh. That's actually something that they say, one of the authors. And basically what it means is, because Europeans have discriminated in their societies against minorities in the past, we must now discriminate against them to somehow balance the scales. Now, I don't know what time frame they're talking. I don't know if they've got a point where they'll go, right, at this point, we do this for 20 years, and after 20 years, it's all balanced. I doubt it.
Well, of course they don't. I mean, it's not going to work either. I mean, look at our poor little island. It's that philosophy that suddenly makes me think that's why they're allowing all these bloody illegal boats in with hundreds of people on them every day.
Yeah, because there's people out there who feel some sort of weird guilt for something that they never did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's almost, as somebody said, it's suicidal empathy to a certain extent.
Totally agree with that statement.
You know, it's it's like, if you talk about take the word colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
So colonialism has always been thought to be something that you probably ought not to do, but they did it in the past, and we look back at it and we used to evaluate the types of colonialism, and certain types of colonialism were worse than others.
Yeah.
You know, some countries were horrible, some countries were less horrible. But we can all agree it's not a good idea to take over another country and govern it, because they should be governing themselves. All right? And that's what we've always thought. But nowadays, suddenly it's become this awful, dirty word. But at the same time, you could say colonialism's happening now.
Yeah.
Couldn't you? Yeah. Certain places are being colonized. And if it was bad when it was done before, it's bad now.
Yeah.
Right? It's not suddenly good now because it's done by different people. You know? So anyway, we've kind of got off the topic of Doctor Who a little bit.
Doesn't matter. It's all about what you want to do. You can get it all. The thing is about what you've just said, though, is of course, if you do say that, as we've seen fairly recently, you get hung out to dry by lunatic lefties.
Yes.
And then including our bloody Prime Minister in that.
Well, there's also something...
apologize and get fired for things.
I did realize something not long ago. I'd always thought to myself that actually the political leadership of a country doesn't actually matter that much, because I'd always thought to myself, actually, you can't really do a lot. There's not a lot you can do. You know, you can create new laws, but it doesn't have that much of an effect. And, you know, do you really? And then flipping Trump took over in 2024.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that leadership does work on humans, if you know. As a libertarian, as a liberal and a libertarian, I always thought to myself, well, everybody, you know, has their own mind, and they think their own things, and they think everything fully through and come to conclusions and operate based on that. I don't think that's true anymore. I think, unfortunately, a broad majority of people do kind of just look up and go, well, what's the person at the top doing?
Oh, I see what you mean.
What's the tenor of it? And they go with the way the wind's blowing.
Yeah, okay.
And I think we've seen that with Trump, because obviously there is a resistance against Trump, but an awful lot of people, what happens is that the leader comes in, or the government comes in, and they start making noises and doing things. And then other people who don't want to be messed with by the government start doing things voluntarily so that they don't get targeted. And so the tenor of who's in charge does affect what people do. And suddenly you find people who've been, you know, when there's a far left government in charge, they've been wonderfully far left. Suddenly when it changes, they change with the wind, and they start sort of rowing back on things, you know?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. And so hopefully, if we can change things, if you can change who's at the top, it will change things further down the pyramid.
What you've just said there makes me think about our favorite show, because if you swap the word Trump for the initials RTD, it works the same way.
Yes. I mean, hasn't he been a massive disappointment? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you know, when he first revived the show, I mean, I had my doubts. I was an old school fan, and so and we didn't really know if it was a reboot, did we, or if it was inhabiting the same universe or anything like that. Yeah. And they gradually sort of dropped hints here and there that actually it was all part of the same thing. And, you know, that was fine. I didn't really like the episode format. I certainly didn't like some of the writing tropes that came up. I didn't like the fact that stories were so short. You didn't really get supporting characters. You know, they would advertise some famous actor as being in an episode, wouldn't they? And really, if you think about it, they were hardly on screen.
Yeah.
You know, if an actor had been in 6 episodes of a Tom Baker story, they make an impression, don't they?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, Jago and Lightfoot and all that, because they're with you for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and they would in the new series they would advertise these people, and you know, oh, Michelle Collins is in 42. Well, brilliant, but you blink and you miss her, and you know, once it's broadcast, you forget all about it, don't you?
I've forgotten about that.
Yeah. You don't look back and go, oh, that wonderful character from 42. Remember her? I wish she could come back. You know, you just don't, do you?
No. I remember Simon Callow.
Yes. But then the really good actors can make an indelible impression on you.
Yeah, because they've got that talent, haven't they? Oh, I've got this one script. This is what I'm going to do. Pow.
Yeah. And so, but you know, I went along with it. I thought, well, this is kind of like 50% for me and 50% for the younger kids, and this is the way the format is now, etc. And I actually checked out basically at the 50th anniversary because I watched. I know you're not a fan of Day of the Doctor, but
no.
I watched it and I kind of went, this is for me the perfect synthesis of the classic series and the new series. It's the new series paying homage to what we love, you know, finding ways to put the old Doctors in kind of fan homage ways. It was the story itself was not amazing. And but then Tom Baker at the end, you know, I had a fangasm there, like everyone probably did.
We all did, yeah.
But after that, I kind of went, right, well, that's all tied up then. That's what I wanted to. That's all I wanted to see in the new series. I wanted to see the new series acknowledge the old series, give it its due, you know, say we're part of this, we're the same as this, and then after that, I wasn't interested in it really. I mean, I watched Capaldi, but you know,
wasn't the same.
Where do you go with it after that?
Yeah,
where do you go with it? What are you supposed to do? So and it didn't help that Moffat didn't move on and give it new blood. Should have had new blood at that point, I think.
So you think he should have gone around about the 50th?
Yeah. He should have finished off Matt Smith. I'm a firm believer that a producer should be a one Doctor producer.
Oh, are you? Right.
Yeah, and then you know, next Doctor comes along, new producer, new showrunner or whoever, new team, because I just think it works. You know. And then of course I've not watched any. I didn't watch Capaldi's last episode. I couldn't stand the idea that they were going to introduce William Hartnell's Doctor.
You and me both.
Yeah, because I'd heard rumors, and it was just like, no, I'm not going to be there for that.
Oh, so you were hearing rumors as they were filming it before it came? See, I was different. I cut off everything. I didn't want to know. I lost interest immediately when I knew who was going to be taking over and why he was going to be taking over. So I just didn't even hear the rumors. So you did though.
I can't remember what it was. I think it was the way that the late Capaldi episodes were going. There were lots of hints, weren't they? There were lots of little social justice-y, lefty kind of things being put in.
The preparation for her coming,
yeah. There was lots of kind of putting down the Doctor in favour of the more minor characters.
Yeah.
And especially the companion. And I don't know what it was. I think also I don't like the idea of David Bradley playing the part.
Yeah, I understand that.
I don't like people taking over. You know, William Hartnell did it, and that's it. And you know,
leave it be.
I don't. That's why I don't like all the Big Finish recasting. Not that
I never understood it, mate. I don't understand it either.
Not that I've ever listened to a Big Finish, but I don't like that idea. I don't know. Somebody must have said something about what happened. That the Doctor was, I don't know, a bit sexist or something. The William Hartnell Doctor, he was a bit sexist, wasn't he? You know, he wanted the girls to make the tea or something. And so I just had a feeling that it was going to be not so good. And then afterwards, people kind of went, yeah, it wasn't. And then, of course, you know, I have a major problem with the Doctor being a woman because he isn't one.
Correct.
In the same way that Wonder Woman isn't a bloke.
Yet.
Well, I'll wait with bated breath for that casting.
Yeah, I'm surprised Hollywood hasn't tried it already, to be quite honest.
Well, it only ever goes one way, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. Against
never goes the other way. Yeah. So and I've not watched any of it since.
You didn't watch the Gatwa stuff either?
Nope.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah. No, I heard about what Chinballs did, and it sounded atrocious. And then the flipping timeless whatsits can go take a flying jump, can't it? I mean, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, wasn't it? Really?
Oh, I think so. I think that's where an awful lot of people that were trying to give the show. I mean, I'm like you. I can't comment on those episodes because I was going nowhere near them, and I've never liked Chris Chibnall. But you know, it was a case of I don't want to know. This is going against everything we know as proper Doctor Who fans.
Yeah,
and you would hear about things, but I think that's the moment where fans that had stayed with it in the desperate hope that the thing was going to be good and get good, because you know, I was hearing things like, oh, it's not that good. Oh, the Spider one was awful. Oh, they've done this. No, they've done, and then that whole timeless thing. Yeah, that's when it just all imploded, because it was very interesting for me. It would have been the same for you, I think, as an outsider at this point, to go, stand back, look at this, and go, oh, really, really? as everybody just went, what the hell, you know? And that's and a lot of them. That's when a lot of people just disappeared, because they obviously didn't come back for Gatwa, because his ratings were in the toilet more so than
absolutely. Well, I got this friend that I used to know. Well, I still know her. We did university together, and we both worked in the media. And she's in a similar situation in the sense that she's been a Star Wars fan all her life. Oh, and
bless her! Yeah,
she's had her thing trodden all over as well.
Yes,
and hates what they've done. And I remember, I think she was watching the Chibnall Doctor Who, and I kind of wanted to check in with her and kind of go, what's it like? Yeah, and I think it was just before the Timeless Children. She just messaged me and went, "You won't like this one." You know, I would stay away if I were you, Dan. She kind of said, because absolutely the hard Timeless Children thing was just what I'd been afraid of. You know, a retcon of the entire origin. I mean, what were you thinking?
Well, I can tell you what he was thinking. He was thinking about how to put in the fact that the Doctor hadn't been 12 white men.
Yeah,
all of whom were heterosexual as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was pure ideology. It was pure critical theory, left-wing nonsense, being dictated. Probably, I mean, maybe dictated to him. Maybe he wasn't.
Oh no, I think it was all down to him, actually. Dan.
Was it?
Oh, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. But yeah, I'm absolutely certain. You know, because some of us have long memories, put it that way, and some of us don't forgive and forget. I don't care what the saying is, but some of us don't forgive and don't forget. But you know, it's a case of like, you know, I think he came in with this. I mean, he didn't want the job in the first place, to be honest. And then I think he came in down with this whole thing of being able to say, how can I really piss off the old school fans? And I think he did everything deliberately, because remember, he only took the job if he could switch the gender of the Doctor unnecessarily. Oh, right. Yeah, did you not know that?
No, I didn't know that.
He went on. I read it in some. I can't remember what newspaper it was or wherever it was, but there was an interview with him where he basically said he'd gone to lunch, not really wanting to do the show, with BBC Studio execs, representatives, and they talked about it. And I'm paraphrasing, Dan, and he basically said to them, "Right, well, I'll only do it if I can change the Doctor into a woman." To which they, of course, went, "Oh, wow, yeah. How brave, how stunning! That's going to bring in millions of people." How not to know your audience? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's stunning that you'd only really had the 50th anniversary quite recently, which was a restatement of all the things, like a Time Lord from Gallifrey who stole a TARDIS and ran away, and these are all his incarnations, and this is the first one, and this is the fifth one, and so on. And then you decide you're going to completely throw all that out the window.
Yeah.
I mean,
for the sake of diversity and inclusion. And
because they live in these echo chambers, and they think that they thought that what they were seeing on social media and the impressions and all that, they thought that was the true fandom, or that was the true public's opinion. Because they thought all these trends, we just follow the trend, don't we?
They certainly do, don't they? I mean, you know the type in the industry.
Yeah.
Fickle.
Yes. Well, I used to have to keep my opinions quiet.
I'm sure you did. Because you wouldn't have got any more work, would you?
Yeah, exactly. People say, "What's
the same now, though?"
This?
Yeah. It's a shame that it's still the same now. I mean, look how many people have been cancelled, fired, whatever you want to call it, and had to, you know, in that industry, and go, and people who haven't worked again because of certain people who have the power to be able to say, you don't agree with us, so they're never going to work for us.
Well, the James Dreyfus thing is absolutely appalling.
Oh, Jim, yeah, bless him.
Yeah, absolutely appalling. I'm with him all the way on that one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say?
But it's been a case of, like, you know, that whole thing. It was for me. It was interesting to see fandom implode that way, with millions, literally millions, wasn't it, around the world, just saying, no, you don't do that. You don't disrespect. Oh, and seeing through the whole, because they introduced that woman whose name I can never remember, the black woman, saying, "Oh, this is the first one." Yes.
It's almost like they just hadn't done enough.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't blasted it in. And didn't Chibnall used to be a snotty little fan that was on like a feedback program where he was saying it's not as good as it used to be?
Yeah. And as I say, a lot of us remember that, and a lot of us criticised him to his face, I might add, about that. And I think that's something that he's never ever forgiven or forgotten.
Right. It's almost like he thinks he's making amends for being that person by doing sort of the opposite, by not respecting the past and making it really crap.
I just think, again, as I said, I think it was him just wanting to piss off the old term fans who he knew were still following the show. And by God, he did. He managed it beautifully in 10 minutes.
Yeah, successful.
Well done him. Congratulations. You began the rot of destroying the franchise, sticking it in the ground, and then you know who comes along and finishes the job off for you.
I know. Well, I was initially hopeful. I mean, I thought to myself, okay, a female doctor, if you're going to do it, you've got to get the right actress. And there's very few of them around. And one of the people I thought would be really good would have been, I can't remember her name, but she was in Rising Damp. She was Miss Jones in Rising Damp.
Oh, yes. And she was also in Vicious, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. And she was in the Harry Potter films. Oh, my God. She's famous.
Francis something, isn't it?
De la Tour.
There you go.
We got there, my friend. Well done, you.
Yeah. So I thought someone like her in a kind of sort of weird, you know, eccentric with like a carpet bag on, you know, a big fur coat or something, making sure that it was eccentric and a bit funny and, you know, perhaps could have done it. I mean, I wasn't, you know, I wouldn't do it, but I thought if they went that way, then maybe something could occur. But unfortunately, they chose what's her face.
Yeah, Thingy.
And she just did a sort of bit of an impression of David Tennant from the clips I've seen.
Well, that's what I heard. I mean, the guys on the panel and a lot of our viewers will say, "Oh, she was a cross between Matt Smith and a lot of David Tennant," because they're the only ones she knew. Yeah.
But they tended to write in the new series. They tended to write the Doctor very generically, didn't they? So, like, because Eccleston said fantastic and was a bit wacky, then, you know, Tennant had to say brilliant, fantastic.
That's RTD as well, and his laziness, his shoddy ability of allegedly being able to write, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just change that word because I can't be bothered coming up with a different character. Yeah,
exactly. And they and also the regenerations were all the same, and it was always, you know, it was always this rigmarole that you went through. It was almost like repetition.
Oh, I know.
You know, and the character was always written as, "Oh, I'm a bit wacky, me." Right now, Matt Smith, when he came in, he changed the game a bit.
Yeah.
Because he was a bloody good actor, and luckily he wasn't a fan in a way.
Yes, he was an actor. Yeah,
and he treated it seriously as a part, and, you know, the bow tie and the fact that he was just ever so slightly disconnected from everything, and he wasn't trendy. You know, he wasn't the handsome David Tennant Doctor that everyone fancied. And he took a sort of step back. He wasn't the romantic lead anymore. It was the companions who were the romantic leads, and that really worked. That was the closest it got to kind of classic, I think. And he was brilliant at the comedy. He was good at the seriousness, and he just exuded doctorishness for me. So he'd be my favourite of the modern Doctors, as it were.
Oh, that's nice.
And he made it a little bit different, you know. And I felt that they were writing it for him in the way that, you know, they wrote it for Tom. They might have originally written it for John, but, you know, very quickly worked out what Tom did,
right,
and wrote it round him. Whereas a new series, it's just around the Doctor going, "Oh, fantastic! Isn't that brilliant?" You know, and that's
stupid lines like timey-wimey and all that nonsense.
Yeah, making up the silly thing. I mean, that's fine if you do it organically. You know, timey-wimey kind of caught on, but then they tried to do more, didn't they? You know, they tried to milk it. And as far as I can understand, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor was just a sort of selection of catchphrases.
Was he?
You know, so not that I've seen it. I've just seen clips.
I haven't even seen the clip. In fact, the only time I ever saw her is when she turned up at the end of Gatwa.
Yeah.
And I remember saying on our review show, I couldn't quite believe that. I thought, oh, here we go. I'm actually getting to see her. And it was interesting because she had an essence which was far superior to what Gatwa had done. He hadn't managed to capture any recognizable ability of the Doctor. And yet here's Jodie Whittaker coming along and does somehow manage to... I recognize more of a Doctor type character in her in the couple of minutes, the 5 minutes she's on, and it was just weird. Not that it didn't inspire me to go and watch her series because I'm just generally not interested. Well,
she probably had the dregs of it, you know, and then when it's compared to him, it feels very Doctorish.
That's exactly what it was, because he didn't have, and again down to who and his crappy writing, and no, you're going to do it this way, and that's the end of it, and he's getting on with it, but he's enjoying doing it, and he wasn't challenging anyone. Because it was totally, you didn't miss anything at all in those two series, because it was absolute cringe.
So why did you start watching that? Were you hopeful that it might have improved?
Yeah, there was this great before. Do you not remember when Gatwa was cast? There was a sort of that we had the thing about RTD coming back, and people like yourself were quite, oh well, okay, this could be good. He could to rescue the show. So yeah, it was also a case of being able to say, right, we're going to watch this in the hope that it's going to be good, in the hope it's going to be fresh, in the hope it's going to get back to being recognizable in the Doctor Who. There were an awful lot of our friends as well that were saying, in the hope he would retcon that whole timeless crap. None of it happened.
No, I can remember the YouTube, sort of zeitgeist at the time was that, oh yes, this could go back to the heyday, and they're clearly going back to him because they're a bit desperate and they're looking to create the past glory of the popularity, and he'll just reproduce that for them. And it turned out the brief was absolutely the opposite of that. Yeah. It's bizarre. No, and I have to say, I was hoping on a bit more of an actor of a bit more stature. If they were going to cast the Doctor as a black guy, there's plenty of fantastic black actors out there that were conveniently not cast,
like Joseph Patterson.
Yeah,
he would be interested.
Yes, or is it Colin Salmond, who was in the James Bond movies?
Yeah.
He was good.
He's a good actor, isn't he? Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah, Adrian, what's his name? Adrian Lester, is it? Shakespearean actor.
Yes. Yeah.
What about him? You need someone with a bit of Shakespearean to do the Doctor.
Yeah. He was magical in a sense as well, because of that presence that he would have had as a Shakespeare actor. That sort of whole ability to be strong. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I was talking to this with a colleague of mine recently, who's a Doctor Who fan, and we were saying that the old actors, the previous cast of actors, probably up until about Peter Davison, they'd all done things like weekly rep, hadn't they? And in weekly rep, you're the spear carrier one week and you're flipping King Lear the next week.
Or you're three people in one show.
Yeah, exactly. And these actors, Patrick Troughton and people, and even John Pertwee had a bit, a different background to that. They played kings. They played kings a lot. Yes. And they played lords, and they played people like that. And so they had this, and especially Tom Baker, they had this ability to just project this kind of aristocratic bearing. And then the TV actors, the ones that brought up, and didn't do all that and just went straight into TV, they don't quite have the ability. And it gets into diminishing returns. Peter Davison was a different kind of Doctor. He didn't really have that lordly aspect to him, but he's a really good TV actor, and so he could do it. Colin Baker, I think, theatre background, he had a bit of lordliness. Sylvester McCoy, none at all, but then his acting was not the best.
Okay.
You felt like he was. I felt like he was learning on the job, and he was. Next season, 27 would have been brilliant.
Right.
Yeah, and then once you start getting into sort of like, Ncuti Gatwa, he's got none of that. He's got none of that presence at all.
Mm.
But there are actors in this country who could have done it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. But do you think it's harsh for me to say that casting now seems to be just by tick boxing and paint by numbers?
Yeah, and who your mates are.
That as well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and and also, you've talked about this before on Whose Views. The structure of everything is different now, isn't it? You cast somebody in a part because they can produce the performance immediately, and you kind of it brings cliche with it. So, like EastEnders, for example, you cast somebody who's as like to the role as possible. You don't want anybody who's too different. So if you want a thug, you have to cast somebody who's kind of more or less a thug, and who can say, "Leave it out, sorted," right? And all they do, and because they have no rehearsal time, and it's just like literally, here's the words, here's the camera, on you go. Do your thug thing, do that thing, do the sorted, leave it out, and all that. And that's why it's all so tedious. Whereas in the old series, they got time to rehearse. They had versatile actors who were, a lot of them, if you played a working class off screen, they were very, very posh in their real life. Bernard Bresslaw, apparently, quite posh.
Gene Alexander, who played in Corrie.
Yeah, exactly.
You
saw them in the street, they'd be like, "Oh, hello."
Yes, exactly. All the airs and graces would come. "Oh, I'm having a rather lovely day."
Exactly.
Like, "Oh, you don't talk like you do on the telly, do you?"
Yeah, and they had the time to sort of think. They were actors; they could act, and they had time to think about what their performance was going to be. They weren't just cast to produce a certain thing, and that's what you get in the modern show.
Well, we saw that in that latest crap, honestly, because what we saw there was, not even a character. It was just play this as Camille,
Yeah.
And there is no fan ever that's going to be able to dictate to me that the Gatwa version was the same as the Hartnell version. That's a totally different character that they've put in there over the last couple of incarnations. That's not Doctor Who.
No. You can call it the same thing, but it's not the same thing, is it?
No.
You can. Well, no, it's not. You can put the label of, I don't know, pate foie gras on some dog food, but it doesn't make it the thing. It doesn't make it that, does it? You know?
And again, carrying on with that image there, your audience doesn't recognize it or realize, do they? Because they are a little bit.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing, isn't it? Where you get a few fans, don't you, that sort of relish the power of canon. So they'll say, "Well, you may not like it, but it's canon, you bigot."
How do you deal with people like that?
I just kind of go, well, I make up what's canon. In my house, my daughter has not seen any Doctor beyond Matt Smith.
Oh, wow, great. Well,
and that's the way it will remain.
Yes.
And, I say there's only
that
many Doctors today, Yeah. And I've made her watch all the old stuff, obviously.
Good
she likes Pertwee. She's a big fan of Pertwee. She likes Matt Smith.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm bringing her up right.
You are indeed. And it's so important now because I see some of these idiots bringing up their kids, and obviously it's just bandwagon parenting. I question a lot of them about what are you telling your children? Why aren't you telling them the difference between right and wrong?
Yeah. Well, they're just not. They just don't think it's their place to do it.
Why? You're a parent, for Christ's sake. Do you know what I
mean? They want to be friends with their kids.
What?
They want to be friends with their kids. They're like, "Oh, I can't possibly have my child hating me." I relish that. I'm like, right, you're in trouble now, madam.
That's part of the whole parent-child bonding. It's what makes you bond later on in life, isn't it? The fact that they've been there to support you, to say, "Knock it off. This is right. That is wrong, and I'm going to basically get to bed if you do something wrong." Are these parents now that watered down, lily-livered, nonsensical idiots?
I think a lot of them are. I think they're dragged along by the trends and the zeitgeists, aren't they?
That explains a lot.
and they don't think about what parenting has to be. I had my daughter quite late in life, late 30s, and so I'd had time to think about what I would do, how I would raise a child. And yeah, it's important. And some of the best times that we've had have been times that I've had to be harsh with her, harsh but fair, when she's stepped out of line, and she always comes to me at the end and goes, "I love you, Daddy."
Oh,
and it's this thing that she acknowledges, that I've had to sort of teach her something, or I've had to show her the boundaries of her behavior, and she appreciates that in some kind of weird way. Yes. And it actually bonds us closer together, rather than if I just let her do whatever she likes. She'd have no respect for me.
Well, as lots of them, as we see in our lovely country now, they're running amok.
Yeah.
I look at things that have happened recently, and I think to myself, right, these kids have gone home. Why hasn't a parent been there to turn around saying, "You've shown me up," clip, like they used to when I was a kid? How dare you act like that? And why are these parents telling them, "Well, hang on a second, that's not what you do. Don't you dare get involved with this."
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was that chap Jordan Peterson who said something like, "Don't let your kid do anything that makes you dislike them," or something like that. You should never feel like you're ashamed of your child, or something like that. So you have to bring them up in a way that they won't do that.
Yeah.
But we had parents like that even when I was little, where the teachers would sort of complain and the parents would defend the child. Little Johnny's overturned the papier-mâché table, and he'd be like, "Why are you having a go at my son?"
Really?
Yeah, but those were the minority.
Yeah, and most of the parents, the majority.
Yeah, most of the parents would say, "Oh, well, wait till I get you home. You'll be in trouble."
Yeah.
But
that was the world I was brought up in, Dan. But I was also brought up in the world that if you did something wrong, you could be in danger of getting several clouts. If you did something wrong at school, you get a clout from the teacher.
Yeah.
And then you get a clout at home from possibly your mother and your father. Or if you were out in public out with your mates or something and you did something wrong, you could get a clout from their mum or dad, and then you get one from your own mum and dad. You might even get a clout from a policeman.
Yeah, because we had a wider society, didn't we? We had other adults who knew that it was their responsibility to look after children when they weren't in the parental context. You had people who would correct kids. Now, if you corrected them in the street now, you'd get beaten to death.
Yeah.
You can't say anything to them. They'll gang up on you, and it's all Lord of the Flies.
Because there's no fear anymore. There's no fear of them being held to account.
Yeah.
No punishment.
Accountability is a big thing for human beings. Because left to our own devices, we will do ridiculous, silly, horrible, nasty things if we're allowed to, and we have to have institutions and people keeping us in check. And
obviously that's not happening in our country at the moment. I want to ask you though, as a parent, as we got onto this subject, as a parent, how are you handling this whole current culture we've got of things? And I'm going to use Doctor Who as a prime example here. And I know your kids aren't watching it. But how do you feel about this whole thing about the current state of television preaching to your children this, and this, and telling them certain things like, you could possibly be in the wrong body, or or this is this, or this is that, or vote green because of that. How do you feel about all that, and how are you dealing with that?
Well, the way I deal with it is massive censorship.
Right.
In the sense that we don't have a TV license, we don't watch BBC, we don't watch ITV, we don't really we don't watch broadcast TV because you can't.
Yeah.
And so I curate stuff. And a lot of it's based on dates. A lot of it's based on, if it's 2020 and afterwards, I don't want her to watch it.
Okay, right.
That's my cut-off date. Is when the world went mad. It was about 2020, I think, when it all reached the pinnacle of bonkersness.
Yeah.
And it's not a perfect way of doing it, but if she watches something that's late, and and if I spot something that's got a hint of social justice and all ideology in it, I'll say, right, sorry, you're not watching that anymore, I'm sorry about that, and I get horrible looks, and And she's angry with me for about a day, and then she gets over it, and we look for something else. But obviously I won't be able to do that forever, and it's going to get more and more difficult. She doesn't have a mobile phone. She doesn't have, well, she has a little Nokia brick thing for phoning if she needs to tell us where she is on the way back from school or whatever. But she doesn't have any kind of social media. She gets very limited iPad time, all that kind of stuff, because I won't have her absorb this. I want her to have her critical faculties enabled by us, so that when she looks at this stuff, she can assess it for the bullshit that it is. Because they've got impressionable little minds, and this stuff goes in, unfortunately. But I think she's got a good head on her shoulders, so I'm confident that she'll be all right. Although big school in September, so
you've got to deal with the alleged teachers there who are allegedly activists, haven't you? Far left activists. I've been seeing a lot of that recently at this union thing that's going on. And in my eyes, I'd ban it. I'd have them banned for this particular teachers' union, because it was incredibly far left politics.
Yeah.
And I just thought, how dare you bring that into children's lives without parental consent? How dare you try and indoctrinate the adults as well as the children? You're not there to do that. You're there to teach these kids facts.
Yeah. I think the problem is that the structure of society, the institutions and things, they can't do anything about if there's bad people in them.
Yeah.
If there's bad people in anything, they will always corrupt it. And they themselves need to have an ethic. So, back in the day, you could have a professor who was a communist, but he knew that his job wasn't to impart communism.
Yes.
He had to teach maths, and even communists back in the day wouldn't dispute that 4 + 4 makes 8. But nowadays they would go, well, maths is colonialist. And does 4 by 4 always make 8?
It's a figment of imagination of society, isn't it?
Exactly.
No, you're right.
Yeah. So, people can have all kinds of opinions, but as long as they have a professionalism ethic that says, I don't bring this into the workplace, I don't indoctrinate children with it, I don't let it dictate who I hire, I don't, fire people based on their opinions, etc. And we could get to that again, but it would involve a bit of a weeding out and a new generation coming in who have been inculcated with the idea of professionalism and, being impartial and stuff like that.
I hope we can get back to that again. I hope so. It's gonna take a long time to do it, because it's been so successful in its infiltration of public and private sectors.
Yeah, well, that's what they said. The far left people like Foucault and all that lot back in the day, they said it's the long march through the institutions.
And we're now seeing the result of that, aren't we? Because it's predominant, and we've got brainwashed idiots leading political parties now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's
frightening.
It's really gone beyond, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
That guy with the hypnotism.
Oh God, what's he like? Oh God, what a pain in the arse he really is. Doesn't realize that everything he says contradicts it. Everything he's saying, all the time. Completely
barely capable of a cogent thought, is he really?
Yeah. And it's just a shame. I mean, all this is so prevalent now. I mean, from a fan's point of view, a Doctor Who fan's point of view, for someone that has very wisely, may I add, not invested in the show for some time now. What will it take to, I mean, obviously we've got this Christmas thing coming, apparently, as we're recording, it's still on the go. Though why? Because nobody wants it. Save the money and do something else, I say. But what would it take to get you back to watching Doctor Who and allowing your family to participate in it again?
That's a good question. I have actually given this quite a lot of thought recently.
Oh, good man.
I think TV has to be all about formats. Do you know what I mean? So Star Trek is the format of a group of people exploring.
Yeah.
That's how you narrow it down. Pointy ears are not essential. The Starship Enterprise is not essential. Group of people exploring. And I think you have to stop Star Trek now and say that version of group of people exploring has been played out. But we're going to make Star Trek, we won't call it Star Trek, but we're going to make the format of group of people exploring in a different way, in a different environment, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Because the format is what survives. The format is what people respond to, not the aesthetic frippery on the outside. So if you boil things down, you have to go to what is the core of Doctor Who. And that's more difficult because Doctor Who's been lots more different things than Star Trek's been over its period.
True.
And I think it will, because I always think that a forerunner of the Doctor was, what's his name? Leslie Whatsit. He was in lots of films during the war, and not Leslie Howard. He was called Leslie something else. Anyway, he was Hungarian, but he was a person who came to Britain, and he was more British than the British. And during World War II, he decided he'd make lots of films because he hated the Nazis because he was Hungarian. And he did things like The Scarlet Pimpernel and Pimpernel Smith and The First of the Few. And in these films, he always plays a very doctorish character.
Oh, right.
Right. He can be violent, but he won't be if he can avoid it. He outwits people. Pimpernel Smith, I would recommend to you as almost like a proto-doctor.
Right.
He's like the Scarlet Pimpernel, but in Nazi Germany.
Right.
With a secret identity and a little group of sort of companions or assistants that help him smuggle, important people out of Germany, out of the clutches of the Nazis. And
we better stop saying the N word, actually, just in case.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. 1930s Germans.
That's it. Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I think the essence of it is he's a magical man with a sort of secret door, isn't he? That's what they initially imagined back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And so you don't really need Daleks, you don't really need Time Lords, you just need a magical man with a magical door who's a bit lordly and a bit eccentric, and he takes you off somewhere. And you needn't even call it Doctor Who, but you should. But you've got to get down to the nitty gritty of it like that. And there's something, I watched something once. There's a really cool animation online. I think it's probably about 10 years old now. And it's a reimagination of the Pertwee Doctor as anime.
Oh, is this that Japanesey thing?
Yeah. And
yeah, I saw that years ago. Yeah, quite an action-packed, colorful cartoon.
Yeah, it's action-packed. It uses some of the audio from the old episodes and things like that. And it,
like the Master in it, and the Daleks, the Cybermen.
Yeah, and he's not really a story. It's not really a story as such. It's just a kind of collection of images and things.
Yeah.
But I think if you bring it back, you've got to sort of distill it down into something. And I have this idea of a really under the radar series that's not brought back with a bang, and it looks like it's based around a military base, and it's it would be UNIT, wouldn't it? Investigating something weird, and it's told from the point of view of.
It doesn't have to be UNIT, does it?
No, exactly. It could be anybody.
Yeah.
But they're investigating something, and there's lots of red alerts, and there's lots of sort of action sequences and stuff like that. And there's just a guy who's in it, and he's a bit weird, and he's the scientific advisor, and he seems to get on quite well with the commanding officer, who they've got a kind of a bit of a rapport going, right. And he's a bit mysterious, he's a bit eccentric, he's rather charismatic, he's rather funny. But as far as you're concerned, he's a human, right? And you see it from the point of view of, I don't know, someone who's joined, the Joe Grant kind of scenario. Yeah. Which could even be called Joe Grant. And you sort of get drawn into this world, and you don't even mention something like the TARDIS. You perhaps have it in the background of one of the scenes. There's a police box, but we don't say anything about it. We continue with our adventure. And then gradually over the course of the series, you just discover more about this mysterious man that you quite like, who seems to pull this organization out of its scrapes a little bit. He always comes up with the right invention at the right time, or he has an idea that helps them out. And you've got a character who's like the Brigadier. Mm-hmm. You could even call him the Brigadier, but you don't have to say he's Lethbridge Stewart. Maybe he's a descendant, maybe he's an ancestor, who knows? But the important thing is he has a relationship in the sense that he's the authority figure and the scientific advisor is the sort of anarchic one, and you just kind of play it out there, and then as you go along, maybe you start maybe you go into the TARDIS at some point, and maybe you start going on the journey. So I'm sort of taking the Pertwee years as a model, really. It's kind of a redo of that, and you could even set it in a kind of a retro period, 60s, 70s, even the 40s. Maybe you go to the 40s and you do kind of like Quatermassy kind of stuff,
Right.
So yeah, I think it has to come back under the radar. I think it shot its bolt in terms of it being this fantastically popular big series. The nature of television as well, and the nature of streaming and everything means that we're all going to be siloed off in our own little compartments, aren't we?
True.
The idea of the family audience, appears to have had its last gasp a long time ago. Maybe with Matt Smith. So you've got to sort of make it its own thing, and it's got its own little niche. But the problem is budgets, of course. You wouldn't be able to make something like that without a decent amount of money.
That's the problem. I mean, it's so expensive now, isn't it? Yeah.
It's got to be rested. We've got to wait until this madness has gone away. 80%.
Final question then for you on what you're just saying there. The Britain we're living in today is totally different to the Britain I grew up in. You've heard me say that before on the show. It's totally different to the Britain you grew up in. Do you think there's a place for Doctor Who?
I think there's a place for the format, as in escapism, mysterious man, magical door, takes you off somewhere, or as I've detailed in my reboot idea, scientific guy who helps people and has adventures every week. I think there's room for that, but you could quite happily get rid of the rest. I think the rest is all played out. It's a happy memory for all of us, Time Lords, Daleks, Cybermen, etc. I remember, but I remember, when the McGann movie came out.
I do, yeah.
And then there was a book that followed. It was like the series Bible thing that they were going to do, and it said stuff like the Master's the Doctor's brother, and Barusa, father, and
nonsense.
At the time, I was like, well, this is horrendous, right? But I look back on that, and I think you'd have to do something a little bit like that now.
Yeah,
I think the idea that when they rebooted it, when they did the new series, they took the old format of let's go and have adventures in the TARDIS in time and space, and they did it really well, and they kind of put a cap on all that, and they took classic series and they changed it, and they gave it more money, so we could finally see the effects that we always wished we could see, etc. And it was deficient in other aspects, but it was pretty good. But you can't have that again. That's tired. You'd have to reimagine it. I don't know. Maybe it's a space opera. Maybe it's all set on Gallifrey.
Ooh.
Which people have always said, well, that'd be boring. But it wouldn't be boring if you wrote it well.
That's the problem.
That's
the problem.
Oh, it's always the writing, isn't it? It's always the writing.
Always and then everything else comes from the back of it. Yeah, That's interesting. That's really interesting. Listen, Dan, thank you so much. We could go on for hours and hours and hours, but we haven't got the time to. But listen, come back again some point, because I really enjoyed talking to you, and it's interesting insight. It's always great to hear what other fans are thinking. I love it. So thank you so much.
Been a total pleasure.
Listen, and thank you for watching and listening to what Dan and myself are chatting about. Really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you're not new to the channel, please make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. Please give us a thumb up. And if you like, give us a hype, because that's what it's all about these days, apparently. So listen, again, thanks, Dan. From Dan and myself, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Chit Chat. If you would like to come onto Chit Chat, then don't forget, you can. All you have to do is email me, whosviews1@gmail.com, like he did. whosviews1@gmail.com.
I'll see you in the comments.
Yes, exactly. Please leave some comments, and then Dan can go and have a look at them. From the both of us, thanks for watching. Until we see you again on Whose Views. Ciao, everybody. Thank you.